Spectre Vision Radio.
Everything that exists, in some way, feeds. Animals, plants, they need to feed to survive. Even an idea dies if you don't nourish it, don't feed it. It's only as alive as you enable it to be. It requires sustenance, perhaps even that you spread it to others so they can feed it too. Feeding things causes them to grow. Feeding things gives them power. The night my son was killed in a hit and run was the longest of my life. Mainly because I felt like that night never ended. I was forever stuck in it, waiting to wake up. Waiting for the sweet release that would come with the realization that it had just been a horrible nightmare. But 2 years after the fact, I was forced to contend with the notion that even if I was dreaming, it didn't seem like I'd be waking up anytime soon. Suffice to say, I became a completely different person. I turned bitter. My friends and acquaintances tolerated me because not doing so would have made them feel bad about themselves, but I still felt like a burden. And then one day, my friend Ben surprised me with a gift. A dog, a young German shepherd named Kai. He was already fully trained and incredibly friendly. A companion, Ben said. I really think this will be good for you. I couldn't believe Ben had saddled me with responsibility, and I didn't exactly come over as grateful, quite the opposite. But Ben had always been so patient and kind with me through it all, so when he insisted I give it a try, that he'd adopt Kai himself if I decided I couldn't deal with it, I felt obliged. It didn't take me long to come around. Kai didn't lessen the pain of losing my son, and I still had many moments where I sank back down into a pit of despair. But every time, Kai tried his best to help me climb back out. Ben was right. Kai became my companion. Our favorite thing to do was to go for walks in the woodland, around a 20-minute drive from where I lived. Kai was a good boy, and I frequently let him roam free, unclasping his leash and reveling at the enjoyment he clearly felt at being able to experience the great outdoors without restraint. But on one such occasion, Kai ran off and didn't come back. It was only when the sun had come up and I was exhausted to the point of collapse, my throat raw from calling his name, that I realized I had to go home without him. I cried for hours, but when the well had run dry, I found that I was left only with the resolve to right this wrong. I was determined to get him back. As long as I hadn't found otherwise, he could still be out there, wondering where I was, hoping I was coming. So I went back to the woods every single day. I walked for hours, calling his name, but no luck. After a couple of weeks of fruitless daily searches, something happened. It was late evening, the setting sun offering an amber glow which only just about penetrated the thick canopy above me in the deepest part of the woods. The place was as silent as I've ever heard it. But what caught my attention was a smell. Sweet, pleasant. I did my best to follow it, and came to a tree just off the narrow dirt path. At the tree's base, someone had set out a line of candles and incense burners. That was where the smell was coming from. I could tell by the tall wicks on the candles and how much of the incense was left that they'd been lit very, very recently. Whoever had done it was still nearby, and they'd left more than just the candles and incense burners behind. Placed beside them in a way which looked intentional, but whose meaning I wasn't privy to, was a bundle of sticks and feathers, all tied together in a way that only a human could be capable of. I made my way around the tree to see if there was anything else of note. On the bark, in some kind of white substance, thicker than chalk, someone had made a crude sketch of some kind of animal. It seemed that had been their intention, but it wasn't any creature I recognized. Above that strange drawing, they'd scrawled 4 words. God will repay you. I suddenly found myself spinning around to look over my shoulder. Was the person who'd done this watching me? I tried to tune my ear, to notice the slightest sound breaking the quiet. But I was all alone. God will repay you. I couldn't stop thinking about those words, and how angry they made me. Repay me for what? Taking my son from me? Fuck that, I thought. I don't want to be repaid. I wanted him to have never been taken from me in the first place. And the least God could do would be to give me my dog back. Over the next couple days, I found myself obsessing over what I'd found at that tree in the woods, getting more and more irritated, more resentful, directing all my negative emotion at it. Ignoring the thought that I was having some kind of breakdown, I purchased a camera, similar to the ones people use as doorbell cams, and made my way back out there to set it up near that tree. I wanted to find the asshole who'd written those words and give them a piece of my mind. I positioned the camera in a way which to me seemed well camouflaged, and made the journey back home to ensure I'd configured it correctly. When I reviewed the footage of the second night, the hairs on my arms stood up. The camera had captured a group of cloaked figures approaching the tree under the cover of darkness. They replaced the candles, the incense burners, rubbed away that strange drawing of the unidentifiable animal, and made a fresh one. I couldn't see it well, but on my computer screen the sketch seemed slightly different to the one before, bigger at least. They also laid a fresh layer of paint, whatever it was, over those 4 words that had angered me so much. God will repay you. Then they left, scurrying away into the night. Confused, I decided to do a deep dive online to see if anyone else had experienced anything strange in the woodland. To my surprise, I came across a series of old newspaper articles. It turned out that the woods had some notoriety after all. Over the course of 9 years, 3 people had ventured into them and vanished without a trace. Were these strange cloaked figures responsible? Or was this just a coincidence? Was this evidence of a group practicing some dangerous version of the occult? Or a collection of eccentrics gathering together for something harmless? I needed to know one way or the other. So I decided to stake out the area around the tree. When they came, I'd blindside them, demand that they tell me if they were the ones who'd taken Kai. And if they were dangerous, well, so be it. I felt like the only approach was to find myself a vantage point while it was still light. Then I'd just wait. It came on the 3rd night. I heard a disturbance, a rustling amidst the trees, but I'd already seen a rabbit and even a deer, so I assumed it'd be some kind of 4-legged forest dweller. But when I craned my head to look in the direction it had come from, I saw a faint glow approaching from deep in the woods. As it neared, I realized it was someone carrying some kind of old-fashioned lamp. I squinted and could just about make out that there were 2 of them, one carrying the lamp, one following close behind, both of them wearing hooded cloaks. I watched as they approached the tree. When they got right up to it, I darted out of my hiding place and hurled a garbled version of a little speech I'd gone over in my head at them. Their lamp offered just enough light for me to get a shadowy glimpse of their faces as they just stared back at me, unfazed, no hint of surprise in their blank expression. Fear rose up inside me as I realized I was out of my depth. The way they looked at me, I felt I'd already got an answer as to whether they were harmless or to be feared. But before I could turn and flee, I felt something strike the back of my head, and everything went black. The back of my head was still throbbing when I awoke. I tried to take in my surroundings as I came to, vision swimming with purple dots from the impact of whatever had been used to hit me. I was in a large room, propped up in a seated position against one of the walls. A barn, maybe? Whatever it was old, falling apart and uncared for. But I didn't have long to contemplate where the fuck I was, as the door at the opposite end of the room opened, and 3 figures slowly made their way inside. The one in the middle must have been 8 feet tall. It was being supported by the other 2, the cloaked figures I'd encountered in the woods. They were propping it up on either side, helping it to remain standing as it lumbered forward. My vision finally focused, and I saw what it truly was. The closest reference I can come up with is that although it had the proportions of an oversized human, it looked like a giant, cancerous toad, body swollen and bulbous. Its face looked like that of a reptile or amphibian, only one that had commenced evolving into that of a human, and had got stuck somewhere in the infancy of that process. God will repay you. In that moment, staring up at that disgusting creature, those words suddenly took on a new, horrifying meaning. This thing was their god. And their god was sick. Their god was weak. Their god was starving. And I was the feed. I had been promised to be repaid for being sacrificed to it. I decided to rise to my feet and fight with everything I had. But as soon as the thing's beady, wet, jet-black eyes locked with mine, I was paralyzed, unable to move a muscle, pinned in my seated position against the wall of the barn. It opened its mouth and made an awful sound, guttural, desperate. Thick slobber began to drip from its ill-formed lips. It was now only a few shaky paces away from me, and it clearly knew it would soon have its meal. I closed my eyes and hoped whatever was about to happen wouldn't be too painful. But then, I heard growling. I opened my eyes just in time to see Kai pounce and sink his teeth into one of the people propping up the disgusting creature. The thing fell to the ground, wheezing as it struggled, trying to lift itself back up with the help of the other cloaked figure. But Kai was quickly on them too, savaging their leg in the blink of an eye, causing them to let out an ear-shattering wail of pain. I realized I could move again, that whatever paralyzing hold the thing had had over me had been broken by its fall. I scrambled to my feet and rushed past the monstrosity as it writhed on the ground, unable to get up, its helpers screaming as blood spilled from their fresh injuries. As fast as I could, I bolted out the door and into the woods, shouting for Kai to follow. He zoomed out after me, overtaking me and keeping a few paces ahead, like he was guiding me to safety. It might come as no surprise, but Kai never leaves my side. we up and moved into the city, into an apartment in a busy neighborhood. There's a park nearby where we like to go. We're not the only ones who make a habit of it, and both Kai and I have made new friends. There's nowhere for him to get lost. He seems happy. And happy would be too strong a word, but I'm okay. And I guess that's all you can really hope for. I'll tell my son about all of this one day, when I see him again. And Kai will be there with us.